Welcome to Born for the Trades, a home service podcast, and I'm your host, Mandeep Pala. Most contractors think their biggest opportunity is more leads or better technicians. But Danny has worked with companies doing 10 million, 50 million, even 100 million. And what he has seen in this, growth doesn't break into one place. It breaks in the gaps between your teams. The call center, dispatch, and field are not separate departments. They are one customer experience. And if they are not aligned, you are leaking revenue every single day. Today, we are breaking down how to connect those pieces and turn your entire operation into one high performing system. Welcome, Danny, to my show. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great, Mandeep. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me. It's really exciting to catch up with you. I know
Yeah,
we did a
my
little bit of catching up at Epic this year, and so that was really fun too. So thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, man. I think it's been a while. Like I think it was overdue, and finally you are here and meeting you. I think after such a long time at Epic, it was great seeing you there. And yeah, and after that we had like a couple of sessions as well. So those were fun. Yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Aw- Awesome, awesome. So for our home service industry audience, like, these are the owners, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, garage door, you name it. These are the owners, those who are listening to our podcast. Like, we want to give them some background about you, right?
Sure.
So, Danny, before we get into frameworks and systems, I want to rewind a bit. You spent over a decade in sales management before entering home services. What pulled you into this industry?
Oh man, that's a great question. One of my friends did actually. He had a company in North Carolina. At that time, I was managing the operations for, I believe I was with AT&T at that time,
Yeah,
and spent a lot of years in just sales management and like teaching people how to sell things in a retail world. Right
right.
back when I remember I started selling when the first Android came out. Like it was the very
Oh,
first smartphone.
after Nokia?
And yeah, it was like I think at that time I was selling like that Motorola Droid. It's like that really square phone that had
Oh
a
yeah.
sliding
Yeah, I
keyboard.
remember like, those after Nokia and then what was that? BlackBerry, right?
The
Like
BlackBerry, that was a big deal back then. Yeah, heck yeah. That's what
yeah.
most business owners used BlackBerry. And then there was, of course, the
Yes.
Android and the
Yeah.
Palm, all of
Right.
those phones. So it was so funny because back then, the biggest objection I would get was, "Oh, I have a perfectly good computer at home.
Right.
I don't need that in my pocket, right?" And well, if you think about it, fast forward now, we all have like
Yeah,
three
exactly.
three
Right.
different smart devices in front of us, right?
Right.
So yeah, so that was fun. I spent a lot of time doing that, and I was pretty good at doing those sales, and I realized very quickly that people didn't care about all the specs about the phone.
Right.
They
Right.
cared that yeah, they didn't care about the megapixels as much as like they cared about having clear pictures of their grandkids, right? They didn't
Right.
care so much about the speed on the internet. They cared about being able to catch the news before they went to work or something like that. And so
Right.
I realized very quickly that people care about things that impacted them. And so I got really good at sales, and then they put me in management. I got to tell you, I was probably the worst boss in the history of
It was
bosses.
boss.
Yeah, I wasn't even a leader at that time. I thought that, well, I did good, so everybody should do exactly what I do, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of telling them to do it that way. And I was like, well, why aren't you just doing it my way? Like, if you do it my
Right.
way, it would work. So I wasn't the best until I got better training through the AT&T on like what leadership really was, right? And I spent a
AT&T
lot
was
of
a game
years there
changer
with
for
them.
you.
It taught me how to lead at a higher level, and I
Right.
managed multiple locations. And one day I just got a call from one of my friends, and he said he had a home service company in North Carolina.
Right.
He said, "Hey, we're not doing very good. We need somebody to help us do sales." And so I was really excited. Translating, the like sales or what I knew about sales to a new industry was really, really
Right.
exciting to me. And so I went in there, guns a blazing,
Yeah.
and I realized probably within the first 30 days that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing.
Oh,
It was retail sales and home service sales are completely different, right?
completely different. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. So I went to that company, and since I realized I didn't know what I was doing, I did the only thing I knew to do, which was to train myself, right, and learn
Right.
everything I could about the industry. And so I did that, and for months I did a lot of training, right? We were part of Nexstar, and I did their training and did training with Service MVP. Did
Yeah.
train, CO Warrior and Rodney Webb University and all of these other things. Anything I could get my hands on for training myself, I did. And so that was my first first gig in the industry, right? I came in as a sales manager, and
Mm-hmm.
man, I'll tell you what, coming from outside of the industry, it took me a
Right.
while to get buy-in from my technicians, right? It took a
Yeah.
while for them to just even be open to anything that I was saying. I had to spend a lot of time in the field, riding along with them,
Right.
really just immersing myself in that. And yeah, we actually ended up taking that company from I believe it was about 1.5 million a year. We went to 5 million in the first year,
Oh, wow.
and
In
that was
first
really
year.
fun.
Wow.
In the first year, yeah. And it was all about the technicians running a process. I mean, that it didn't
Oh,
exist in that company before, and so we
right.
kind of put that together from the different trainings, and really, that helped us to take off at that time. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What a great story. And like, I think once you decided that, okay, you'll be like, in this like industry, you'll be training, like, what were some early mistakes you saw contractors making over and over?
Well, I'll be honest with you. There in that very first experience I had with the industry, the biggest hiccup or the thing that held us back the most was there were new things, right? Very much like
Hmm.
today. There's a lot of new things around, and so
Right.
there is this when the focus goes to something new, it usually leaves the focus leaves the behaviors that actually kind of get us there, right? And so,
Right.
so what I saw a lot at first was there's a lot of shiny things going on, and so our focus is divided instead of it being in our daily operations. So, from a management or ownership perspective, oh man, I would say that like slow down on new initiatives, see one
Right.
through, and then go from there.
Slow down. Like, I
Yeah,
think there are so many like shiny objects out there. You gotta slow down and,
yeah,
look into like, detail. What is your priority
yeah,
at that
exactly.
moment? Great, great, great. I think we will dive into like, our next segment. Like, I think this is gonna be amazing. The alignment problem here. So we'll be like, discussing about like disconnect between call center dispatch and technicians.
Yeah.
So Danny, you talk a lot about alignment. That the real problem isn't just the sales or ops, it's how the call center, dispatch, and field all connect. Where do most companies break down?
Oh man, I would say there is if there's one thing I learned just like working with Chad Peterman, right? After I
Yeah,
worked with that initial company, I went with Joe with Service MVP, and boy, I thought I had learned something in the first job. Man,
yeah,
I learned so much more about training and about operations with Joe.
Joe.
It really taught me a lot of the values that I still
Yeah, we
carry
are
with
talking,
me.
guys. We are talking about Uncle Joe. So yeah,
Uncle
to,
Uncle Joe will always be Uncle Joe. And so yeah,
yeah,
kudos to him. And he spent a lot of time, mentoring me in what he knew I was capable of. So I'll always be really grateful for that
nice.
team.
Love it, love
Uh,
it.
and so after I was with Service MVP, I came in, I joined Chad Peterman, and Chad said, "Hey, can you move to Indiana and like help me build learning and development for Peterman, right? And train our
Right,
team." And I had trained a lot of his team before, and
right.
so working with Peterman Brothers, I mean, has been one of my absolute greatest honors, right? And being able to
Nice.
learn from the team and how they
Yeah.
work and what they do. It's been a privilege to be able to train them. And so one thing that I learned, I think, is that like in home services, right?
Right.
Growth is not random.
Yeah.
It is growth is really driven by a handful of controllable levers within our business. And the companies that
Yeah.
win, they build training around those levers.
Yeah.
And
Training.
and not surprising, right? That you say alignment and the disconnect, and the reality is that there are four main operational levers that we
Mm.
focus on here at Peterman, right? The operational levers are booking,
Booking.
cancellation,
Mm-hmm.
conversion, and average ticket. And if you think about it, right, booking and cancellations, that's on the internal operations side.
Right.
Conversion and average ticket are on the external operation or the field operations
Field
side.
operations. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, I think it just it doesn't make sense when companies function in silos, right? When
Mm.
companies function, or I guess they like stay in their lane, right?
Right.
As you would say. So CSRs are booking the calls, dispatch is dispatching, guys are running the calls, and it's almost like everyone is running a disconnected process rather
Mm.
than a relay race, right? Where you
Yes.
actually hand it off
Handing off.
to
Yes.
someone else. Yeah, and so I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see with companies is thinking of those departments as individual departments rather than a complete customer experience,
Right.
where your customer is being handed off from one department to another. You know what I mean?
Love it, love it. That's amazing. I think that's where I think teamwork, plays a big role. And then you win the championship, right? Then you give that amazing customer experience that wows them. Definitely. I want to ask you, what is the impact on the customer experience when it's not like fixed? It's keep doing the same stuff. What's the impact looks like?
I think for the most part, sometimes we come across as disconnected, as we come across as we don't have a great communication
Right,
process within our organization, and I think that makes it to where it's harder once our technician actually gets there. Right, the goal is to convert the call,
right,
and I think if we don't do it the right way from the get-go, we make the job so much harder for our techs in the field to
right.
actually like do the work that the customer called us out for. So I think really from a customer's perspective, having a very disconnected process really impacts their trust level in
Yeah.
us and what we're doing when we get out there. Um,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing. I think that's the major one. The next segment, I love this one too, like call handling that drives results. So you have introduced specific call handling frameworks that help companies book more and create better handoffs. Walk us through what a great call actually looks like.
yeah, 100%. I think that sometimes when one of the things we focus on teaching, not just at Peterman, but through Can't Stop the Growth, is
Right.
the idea of like empathy, right?
Mm,
In our calls, I listen to calls and it's like, oh, my name is Danny. Thank you for calling Peterman Brothers. And you're like, oh, my AC is not working. Oh man, well, sorry to hear about that. What's your name? And let me see your address, right? Let me
right.
make sure.
Yeah.
So it's like we kind of skip past that part and we make it really hard for the customer to feel a sense of trust and care. And I think the idea here is that when if we are able to not just like exercise a level of empathy, but also
Right.
give the customer options that doesn't like force them into a booking window, right?
Right.
I think it really not only communicates like care in the willingness to be able to help this customer, but it also makes it to where I guess the goal of any call is that when you hang up, when the customer
Right.
hangs up, they don't feel the need to call anyone else.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so if a customer hangs up and they are not sure and they feel the need to call someone else or they didn't get any options for booking and they're
Yeah.
not sure when you're going to come out, um, the chances of them calling someone else are really high.
Really high.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think from a booking perspective, I think the two most important things is number one, how we exercise empathy, right?
Yeah.
Just being a little more, and I'm not saying there's a way to exercise empathy where you don't get into a 30-minute call, right? Because
Right.
that's usually my CSRs like their pushback. It's like,
Right.
well, I don't want to get into a 30-minute conversation. I got other calls in the queue. And it's like, well, you don't have to do that as long as you exercise the right type of empathy, right?
Right.
We call it compassionate empathy. That means that not only do we understand from a mindset perspective, but we also feel what the customer is feeling and ultimately take action based on that situation. And
That's amazing.
I think
Yeah.
there's a way to exercise all of that without getting into a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
Um,
I th like Chad Peterman, he was on my podcast last week. I asked him one question, but I'm gonna just ask different one to you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you're gonna answer pretty well. Like, how do you balance empathy with control of the call?
That's a really good question. The way to do that is by preparing. That's it.
Preparing.
That's all you have to do. Most of the time, we just kind of wing it and we just take a call. But the reality, Mandeep, is that every single call that comes in, I rarely hear a new story.
Okay.
It's all the same story about an inconvenience or something that has actually
Right.
gotten in the way of our customers' day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
So now they're calling us for help. So I think the most important part is practicing what empathy sounds like and
Yeah.
practicing a way to always attach an action after communicating empathy. If we are
Yeah.
able to attach that, then we move the interaction forward. So, for example, if you called me and tell me that your system is not working, I would say, "Oh, Mandeep, that sounds like it's really putting a damper on your day. And I hate
Right.
that you're going through that, but you called the right place. So let me get some information so that we can get you taken care of today."
Love that.
See how
Love
different
that.
that sounds? Then I'm so sorry
Yeah.
you're going through that. What's your address?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is totally.
Yeah.
It is totally different.
So
Like,
I would say attach an action to your empathy. That way
hmm.
we can continue to move the interaction forward.
Love it, love it. Like, at Grow Nearby, like, here, uh, one of our core values is empathy and then, like, positivity. And em this is what, like, I have been deploying. I think it's in me, it's in my DNA. Empathy plays a big role, like, personal, professional, it it works, right? Sometimes, like, people have it in their DNA, but can you learn, like, if you cannot, like, apply? Yes, like you said, right? You can practice, right?
Yes,
You can practice and you can get better so that you can deploy empathy. That plays a big role. Love it.
100%.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, next segment. Nowadays, like, we have started doing segments on YouTube. If anyone wants to maybe skip to the next segment, they can easily
Yeah.
do that. I just learned it like, 2 weeks ago. Our next segment is like, smart scheduling and prioritization. So you also talk about scheduling as a strategic function, not just like plugging holes in the calendar. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a quick story just to
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
communicate this.
Yeah.
Uh, when I was talking about working at that first company in North Carolina, right?
Right.
I had actually hired Joe Crisera to train us at that time.
Oh, really?
So a lot of, yeah, so half of all this stuff is something that, that he taught us to do. Because one time I had a phone call from a customer, right? And we had an electrical division, but we only had two electricians. And I don't know if
Okay.
anyone else out there in the trades can relate, but it's really hard to hire electricians. I mean, it's hard to hire technicians, period, but
But
electricians
I've heard that
specifically.
electricians are hard to hire. Yeah.
Right. And that
Yes.
hasn't changed. I mean, you're talking that was like 7 years ago or something. And
Right.
so, and actually, the way I came to this company is that friend that called me, my sister was a CSR at this company. And so
Okay.
when I came in as a sales manager, Liliana is her name. She did
Hmm.
an awesome job. She was great, and she was so proud of her booking rate. Like that was her thing. She was constantly at 95% plus on booking rate. So she did everything possible to make sure everyone booked.
Right.
One time, one time I heard her say, "Mr. Customer, I know that we can't get out to you right away,
Hmm.
but if we're this busy, chances are everyone else is too. So let me just hold this spot on the schedule for you. And if you call around and find someone else, you can call us and cancel. But if
Yeah.
not, then we at least have that on the schedule for you." So I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that was great." So
That
she
was
was
great.
awesome at that. But one time she got a phone call from a customer that wanted a fan installed in a guest bedroom. So
Guest
think about
bedroom.
that, right?
Yeah.
If you think about that, that would probably, for most of our companies, that would be a low priority call.
Low priority.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like nobody doesn't have power. It's also a guest bedroom. It's not that serious. So sure enough, my sister, she was like, "Hey, Miss Customer, we appreciate that. Listen, we can get out to you next week." Right. We were booked out
Hmm.
for like 7 days or something with our electricians. And that's actually probably true right now at Peterman too. So,
Oh, it's true.
but she called and she said, I need somebody to come out and give me a quote today." So my
Today.
sister was like, "Well, we can't get out there today."
Mhm.
And so eventually that escalated and she wanted to speak to a manager. So my sister, of course, came and got me.
Okay.
And and as I was going over there, it was so funny because I remember her saying to me, "Hey, if we can't book them and we can't book them because of the time, that's
Yeah.
not going to count against my booking rate, right?"
Yeah.
That was her big concern. So, anyways, I get on the phone with this customer, Mandeep, and she
Right.
said, "Listen, I need somebody to come out and install this ceiling fan today or tomorrow at the latest." And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I wish we could do that, but we're booked out until next week." And she said, "Listen, I don't care what happens. I'll pay anything."
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
and then she
wow.
proceeded to tell me a story. She said that her mom was in the hospital and she had had a procedure, and that
Yeah.
she was going to stay at her home during the recovery process, and she was
Oh,
not going to be comfortable in that room without a fan.
no.
And she was being discharged the next day. And so
Wow.
as I'm thinking about it, and she said, I'll pay anything.
Hmm.
I just, in my mind, I was like, okay. And I know I had heard it from Joe at one point. I was like, well, let's just sell her a membership, right?
Yeah.
And I said to her, I was like, Miss Customer, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Why don't you become a member today? And I'll just charge you for the membership over the phone. And then I'll call one of our current members that just has an inspection, and
Right.
I'll give them a $50 credit and see if they're okay moving to another day.
Another day. Yeah.
It was like, that's perfect. Let's do it. And I was like, well, but before you tell me yes, our membership is quite pricey, right? Because
Right.
we had four divisions. We had HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and roofing.
Right.
And so, I mean, everybody, touch bases with the customer once a year. So you're talking our membership was upwards of like $300, right?
Right.
And so the customer didn't even bat an eye. I mean, she was like, no problem. Can I put it on my credit card? And I was like, sure. So she, took that payment. I called another customer. The other customer was more than happy to move based
Mm.
on this emergency situation. And sure enough, we went out to her home. The coolest part was that when we went out to her home, not only did we install a
Yeah.
fan and that turned into an actual sale, but she actually went ahead and like added another circuit for some of the equipment that was going in that room and added convenience outlets next to the
Mm.
bed to do that. So
That's amazing.
once we did it one time, we realized that if we gave customers an option to skip the line, right, and
Yeah.
uh, to let customers determine their own priority rather than
Yeah.
us determining the priority, well, we figured that conversion was significantly higher. And so even now, when with all of the companies that we work with through Can't Stop the Growth,
Right.
most of those people that buy a fast pass, right,
Right.
they actually convert at about 87%. So it's really,
Wow.
really cool.
Hey, real quick, if you're in the home service space and you care about getting more calls, more jobs, and actually growing this year, don't skip this. First up, Broccoli. This one's a game changer. While you're out on a job, asleep, or just missed a call, Broccoli's AI voice agents are answering your phones 24/7, booking jobs, following up on estimates, and even dispatching texts in real time. No more missed leads, no more will call you back. It plugs right into tools like Service Titan, and you can even match the AI voice to your brand. It's basically a full-time receptionist team without the overhead. Check them out at broccoli.com. Next, grow nearby. This is where things separate, because getting leads is one thing, but becoming the company everyone remembers, that's a different level. Grow Nearby helps home service businesses dominate their local market with high-end content, paid ads, and real strategy behind it. Not random posting, not guesswork. A system built to consistently bring in qualified leads while building a brand that actually stands out. If you're tired of blending in and ready to become the go-to name in your area, go to grownearby.com and take a look. And of course, grow reviews, because you can be the best. But if nobody sees it, it doesn't matter. Grow Reviews helps you collect real video testimonials from happy customers, the kind that instantly build trust and close deals before you even show up. They make it ridiculously easy to capture and showcase those real customer moments that sell for you. If you want more trust, more credibility, and more book jobs, head to growreviews.com. All right, now let's get back into it.
And if you think about it from a technician perspective, right? If you're an HVAC guy or an electrician
Right.
and you're having to run a 4 o'clock call, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I say, Mandeep, this is a fast pass customer. Like they really need the
Right.
work done. You're probably going to be way more likely to be happy to take that call because now that's a higher priority opportunity.
Higher priority. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, story. And I think a lot of home service industry owners, they can relate to that and learn from this. And I wanted to ask you, but I think you pretty much answered, what's one of the scheduling models you teach that changes performance? I think this one, right? Where
Yeah,
you teach like,
just
how to
give
schedule
people options, you
people
know?
options, right?
Yeah, just give them options to. I think that one thing that we really focus on is technicians given options, right? But
Yeah,
then when it comes to the first contact for us, we just kind of tell them what it is instead of letting them prioritize themselves, right? And
right.
well, a lot of the pushback I get, Mandeep, for anyone that's listening is, well, we're gonna have to reschedule calls,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I don't know of a company that doesn't already do that. It's
Mm,
just we do it reactively, right? Rather
right,
than us being in control of who and what we reschedule. So,
right,
so yeah, for anyone out there, think about how you could give your customer options for getting on the schedule rather than just forcing them into a time frame.
right, right. I think that's the good opportunity out there and giving options. Love it, love it.
Yeah.
My next segment is gonna be the handoff, where money is won or lost, right? So it sounds like the handoff between teams is where a lot of companies either win big or like completely fall apart. What makes a strong handoff, Danny?
Well, there are a lot of handoffs that happen in the customer journey, right? You have a handoff from CSR to dispatch. You have a
Right.
handoff from dispatch to the tech, from the technician over to a turnover or to a salesperson or a comfort
Yeah.
advisor. And then you have that handoff to install, right? Should we actually do the work and replace the system?
Right.
So the most important thing is making sure that the person before that is doing the handoff
Hmm.
is providing a level of service that sets up that next person for success.
Right.
And I know it sounds kind of silly when I say it because it sounds so obvious, right? So logical. But a lot of the times when I go into companies to train, kind of like the beginning of our conversation, the departments are separate and siloed, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I talk about during my on-site trainings is, listen, I usually get companies in the same room and in all of the different departments, and it's like, hey, I ask technicians, hey, raise your hand if you've ever lost a call because you didn't know that the customer had a home warranty.
Right.
Raise your hand if you lost a call because you didn't have anyone to present to because nobody was home, right? And so of course they all raise their hands because they've been through it before. And so my point is everyone in the company works for our technicians.
Yeah.
And everyone, the goal here is that we look at service, right? And here at Peterman, we call it, and I can't stop the growth, we call it service with significance. That means
Service.
that we are aware of how our job is impacting not just us, but our team and then the customer as well. And
Right.
so when you think about it, if CSRs were taking the call in a way that they were setting up dispatch
Yeah.
and our teams, our field
Right.
staff for success, well, now they're asking better questions and they're
Hmm.
recording information much better and much more accurately, right? They're
Yeah.
assigning a priority to calls so that dispatch has an easier time dispatching the right technician to those calls.
Yeah.
And in that same way, right, when it gets handed off to technicians, we've done all of the work on the front end to make sure that they have the best chance at closing that call.
Right.
Same thing with our field staff. They take all of the pictures, walk through videos, documentation on measurements and
Hmm.
sizing and everything they could possibly have to set up our installers for success.
Right.
So I think that's the important part. The handoff needs to be documented and it needs to be intentional for
Yeah.
the next person coming behind you.
Yeah, not for the sake of like, documenting, but yeah, you gotta be intentional, right? This is
That's
good,
right.
like, with the proper communication, documentation, and handoff. But let's talk about like, how does like poor communication affect close rates in the field?
Oh man. Well, for starters, right?
Yeah,
There is if we don't set the right expectation from the get-go, like from the very first call, like what's going to happen, right?
right,
Sometimes we think that on the CSR side, our job is just to book the call, right? But the
right.
reality is our job is to book the call and also provide the customer with exactly what is going to happen over the next period of time
Yeah,
until your technician is there.
right,
So when we don't have that, when we don't set the right expectation, our technician pretty much goes in blind.
right,
And even though they try really hard to do the right thing and they try to follow the process, they're not
right,
able to because, well, there's nobody home or
right.
nobody's there that we can present options to or have a conversation with, right?
Yeah,
or maybe we go out there and we uh, didn't have the right something that I see all the time is like technicians go before for like a maintenance call, right?
Yeah.
And they see a reliability concern, but they don't talk about it and they don't put it in an option. So now a month later, our service technician is going out there because there's a breakdown.
Yeah.
And the customer's thinking, well, you were just out here, like what's going on? And then our
Mm,
service technician has nothing to rely on, no notes, no
mm.
pictures.
No
And that
pictures.
to the customer comes across as, well, it just translates and manifests as a lack of trust.
Yeah. Lack of trust. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. I think when we miss our internal communication, it just manifests itself in a lack of trust from the customer as to
Yeah.
our competence,
Yeah.
right?
It affects to the top. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. My segment, another segment is like training. Like you're passionate about this, I know.
Oh man.
Training, career paths and development, like building systems that develop like people at every level, right?
Yeah.
So you built learning and development systems inside 100 million plus company, especially with like Chad
Yeah.
Peterman here, onboarding, training, career mapping. What is that why is that such a critical investment?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I get a lot of the time. One thing I hear from leaders a lot is, Danny, how do I motivate my team? Like,
Mm.
Danny, how do I like? Why don't they care as much as I care? Like,
Right.
why don't they care about the same goals and why don't they like get here on Monday morning, right? And just
Hmm.
grind it out. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I think what I see a lot is that training is really the missing link, right? Most companies get stuck because they track numbers, but they don't build a system to improve the people behind the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I was so lucky to work with Chad because Chad gets it, right? He
Yeah.
understands that you
Oh
have to
man.
develop people
He's amazing.
in
Yeah.
order to actually hit those numbers. But so here's what we did here at Peterman. So first off, we started by revamping learning and development and retraining current technicians on the basics, right? Like
Hmm.
what should option building look like? What does a clear presentation sound like? How do we
Yeah.
close the call? And how do we like just run a basic process?
Right.
Um, After that, I had an awesome team of coaches that we work with, and we call them dedicated field support coaches, which it's the equivalent of call by call.
Right.
But dedicated field support is less of a micromanagement format and more of an intentional development every single day, right?
Love it.
Our
Love it.
coaches have a structure for what they're going over every day rather than I'm just checking your options and I'm just
Yeah.
holding you accountable to the process.
Right.
So we did that and saw awesome results across the board on all of our departments, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. And then after that, what we did is we reworked our Top Tech Academy. So before that was like a
Yeah.
6 month program, and so what we did is we made it a 10-week program that takes somebody from not knowing anything about HVAC to
Mm.
knowing enough to run maintenance calls on systems that we installed, right? Systems that
Right.
are 4 years and under, and that freed up all of our service technicians to actually run service calls,
That's
right?
amazing. And that's just like, for HVAC only or plumbing, like just HVAC.
We did that for HVAC and we reworked the curriculum for plumbing.
Okay.
We've done the HVAC curriculum. I think we're on the third or fourth class. I think they like the guys just graduated,
This guy.
like
Yeah.
last week or the week before that. And
Hmm.
I think plumbing is going to happen in the fall this year.
Plumbing.
Um,
Awesome.
yeah. So once we reworked that academy, we turned our focus into to onboarding, right? So,
Right.
and here's what happens at a lot of companies, most companies actually, you hire a technician that has some experience, right?
Right. Yeah.
We're not sure what exactly that experience is other than what they tell us. And then they go on endless ride-alongs for 4, 6, 8 weeks. I don't know. It's just it's very subjective, right?
Yeah.
There's no real structure. So what we did is we reworked onboarding in a way that we gave our employees a 10-day map, and we knew that on day 10 they would run their first solo call.
Solo
So
call.
yeah, so every single manager knew that now there was a process now in place where they would have a technician that was ready, that was running
Mm.
the Peterman way, and that was going to be in a truck and generating revenue on day 10. So that was
Wow.
really cool to
That's
do
amazing,
that.
man.
We even had like a running contest on who could do the most revenue on their first solo day, and I think we were at the record is about $17,000 right now on day one.
70,000?
17,000 from
Wow.
one of our technicians, which is really, really cool if you think about it, because most of the
Yeah.
time you just don't even know when
You
somebody's going
don't
to be
even
out
know,
doing the
and you
work.
just learned it like, after day 10 and
Yes.
closing this kind of stuff. Oh my God. That's
it
amazing.
was it was really, really cool. And after we did onboarding, we turned to career maps, right? So,
Hmm.
and I think that's one of the things that really changed the game. And I'll tell you what. So I do a lot of training, right? And I did a lot of training for Peterman training classes, turnover workshops, and whatever was important at that time.
Right.
And one of the things I always ask my technicians when they come to training is, what do you want to take away from training?
Right.
And so, they gave me answers here and there. And it was really, really cool because once we actually deployed career mapping, right?
Right.
And I'll give you a short overview of that. So, career mapping
Yeah.
means that we went to every trade, right? The HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, and we divided the career into six different levels, right? Three levels for maintenance, three levels for service. And then on the install side, you have three levels for apprentice, and then three levels for a lead installer.
Oh, I got it. So let's say, like, sorry, let's say if I am at, like, level two, right? I'm a technician. I know like how much I'll be making at level four and five. Is that something?
Yes, sir.
Right?
That's
Oh.
exactly right. And the cool part is not just that you know how much you're going to be making, you know exactly what technical skills you need. You
Oh
know
yeah.
exactly what communication skills you need at that level. You know
Hmm.
exactly what KPIs are expected of you.
Expected.
And then you can move to the next level, right?
Love it.
And so it's super cool because this is what changed. Once we deployed that, I remember the next training class, I asked one of our maintenance technicians and I said, "Hey, what do you want to take away from this class?" And he pulls out a notepad where
Hmm.
he had scribbled and he said, "Danny, I need to handle these two objections because
Right.
I need 10% more conversion to hit my level 3."
Hmm.
So that's exactly what I need to learn in this
Yeah.
class.
You need to
That
learn, you
was,
need to hit the KPIs, then you will level up.
yes, but it was them
Yeah.
asking for that
Yeah.
training. So now it's like, instead of me trying to teach them how to handle an objection or how to present,
Yeah.
they're coming to us asking, "I need help with this because I'm
Yeah.
10% short for my next level."
Yeah.
Right. So that was the biggest, differentiator there when we actually deployed those career maps, and now everybody knows exactly where they are.
Love it, love it, love it. Good
Mhm.
stuff. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely dive into it, like, because there are so many contractors, business owners, they need this kind of platform. They need, like, training, and the way that it is structured to go to the next level by
Yes.
hitting the KPIs and learnings. That's massive. I would definitely ask you at the end. We are getting
Yeah.
into our last segment here, the playbook here. So, all right, like, contractor listening right now, or contractors doing 2 to 5 million, wants to tighten operations and grow. So, Danny, what are three things they should do this week to better connect their call center, dispatch, and field?
Hmm, that's really good. Number one, I would say is ask your field staff, like, what are some of the reasons that they are not able to move forward with customers? Are they
Hmm.
missing information? Like, what are the things that would be helpful for them to know that you can now communicate to CSR so that CSR can ask those things? So that's a first awesome step in just connecting those two departments together so that technicians know that CSR has my back and they're setting me up for success. And so that
Right.
CSR knows that you work for techs, right?
Hmm.
I tell them all the time, even myself in my role, right? I'm overhead.
You're right. Overhead.
And most other positions are. So all of us work for our field staff, right? So I would
Right.
say ask your technicians what would be helpful to know on your call so that you're better prepared, and then give that information to your CSR. I would say that's number one.
Love it.
I think number two, for us to be able to, and you said specifically to connect these departments, is that right?
Right. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Like,
So
better connect their, like, these department. Yeah.
yeah, again, I would say ask, like, give those questions and implement those into your script or your call process and your booking process. I would say the second thing is um, figure out a way to prioritize calls. that is not based on the assumption, that is not based on the problem alone, right?
Yeah. Love it.
That will help connect not just like CSR setting up the field technician for success, but also dispatch knowing exactly who needs to go where.
Yeah. Love that. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then the last thing I would do, and probably one of the most important ones that I talk about a lot, is implementing a debrief process where
Deeply.
your technicians have to connect with the office in order to get their next call.
Next call.
That will get the team working together, knowing that, hey, like my calls depend on CSR, dispatch depends on CSR to book the call and prioritize
Right.
it. But also, our technicians have to get back to our dispatch team to make sure that we finish that call and we have all the info we need. And then the technician can get that next call. So I think making sure that we do those things and that they understand that they're working for each other will
Right.
start to get them in the right direction.
Love it, love it. Like, that's the exact, like, I think step by step process, like, to dial this in. Love it. And I would love to like, hear like contractors, those are listening right now, want to be part of like, this journey, training, development program. What's the program name called? How can they get in touch with you or someone who is leading? Like, please, like, just give us like, easy steps and we will link everything in the description for our audience.
Heck yeah. So can't stop the growth. One of my absolute favorite things to do is just help contractors really like tap into learning and development processes and a learning and development department that well that's worked at $100 million
Right,
without having to pay millions of dollars of overhead, right?
right.
So we pretty much like we built processes that work, that are proven, that are modern, right? That do not
Yeah,
focus on sales alone, but focus on the customer experience.
experience.
And I think our favorite thing is to be able to share it. So Can't Stop the Growth actually came from Peterman Brothers. Um, Chad Peterman, you know how he is. He loves to help everyone. And so he regularly opens up Peterman Brothers for tours, right? And
Right.
so as I was working in learning and development for Peterman, Chad would kind of point people to us in learning and development that said, oh, can we get access to this? Can we send our guys to train with your guys? And can we do all of this? And so I would help a lot, right? But I had my plate full with Peterman Brothers. And so Chad, eventually reached out and said, hey, so are you ready to, grow the Can't Stop the Growth side? And I was like, heck
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so what we did is we just kind of like copied and pasted, right? We took
Right.
all of the processes and things that we're doing at Peterman, and now we have those available through Can't Stop the Growth for companies, so they don't have to hire an
Yeah,
internal trainer, so they don't have to hire a huge, learning and development department.
yeah.
And so, yeah, so we work with contractors. So we do regular, regular training cadence for their teams. We help them with the basics. We help them with their office staff. We help them, build out career maps for their companies. We help them
Right.
develop their onboarding processes, and we do that for a monthly subscription. So it's
Yeah.
really, really cool because we get to work with a ton of contractors,
Yeah.
and just watch them grow and grow with them. Right. So
Exactly. And
yeah,
contractors, like, those who are listening, you get access to, like, what Chad Peterman did, like, by building, like, 100+ million dollar company, like all those systems right there is like, like Danny mentioned, like, copied and pasted there. So it's like you're getting, like, that right hand experience there. And especially Danny is amazing. If you guys not like, heard or hired or like, he's so passionate about training and he is leading this Can't Stop the Growth. I'm part of the community as well. I was there for a session and I think I'll be there tomorrow as well. I'm invited. It's just like, Danny and Chad Peterman there to actually support home service industry and only with one purpose to level up the trade.
that's right.
And I was talking to Chad and he mentioned, I think he was talking to his dad, like, I think long time ago. That's where this phrase came, can't stop the growth. When he was talking to his dad, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Now it has become such a brand podcast. So
Yeah.
yeah, to the entire like audience, those who are listening, feel free to reach out to Danny. I'm gonna put your email and phone number. If it's blowing up, like don't be mad at me, but I think you're always there to help, like contractors out there. So we will link everything in the chat, and you are there on Facebook as well, right? If anyone
Yeah.
wants to reach out, what's the best
100%.
place?
Yeah, so head over to can'tstopthegrowth.com. You will see two links, one to talk to one of us. The other one will take you to the Arena, which is our private Facebook group where you can get free resources and things like that.
Nice.
So yeah, that would be the best place to start, would be at the website for can'tstopthegrowth.com, and you'll be able to get all our info from there.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Danny, so much. And I want to thank, our sponsors as well. Broccoli AI, Grow Reviews. That means a lot, for supporting, our podcast and do all the audience, for the love and support for almost I think more than 3 years. So that's the fuel that inspires me to keep continuing and bringing leaders, coaches, trainers like Danny, Chad, Peterman, and others. And again, thank you so much, Danny, for coming to my show. And we'll be releasing this, I think, episode next week.
That's awesome, Mandy. Thank you so much. I'm constantly inspired by the change that you make in our industry too, and I've had a first row seat to how you've impacted some of the businesses we work with. And so, thank you so much for everything you do and for having me today. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. Yeah, have a wonderful day.